Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2. I'm Stephen Buckley.
And I'm Keith Delahan.
And this is Insight, the Stripped Back podcast, sponsored by Robust Lighting.
And on this episode's Overload segment, myself and Stephen are going to talk about how to set up your own electrical company.
But before we get into that, we've got the special guest interview segment with Building Heroes Ireland ambassadors Chatreen O'Connor and Liam Roche. Let's get into it.
The guest interview segment, now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
We are delighted to have two trailblazing young people who have chosen their career paths to be within the construction industry, and they are joining us on this episode as ambassadors of Building Heroes Ireland to help shine a light not only on different avenues into the industry, but also the opportunities and experiences that can be obtained throughout the training process and beyond.
Yeah, totally agree, Stephen. Let's welcome to the podcast Phase 2 Electrical Apprentice Chatreen O'Connor and BIM Technologist student Liam Roche.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for inviting us back on. I'm delighted to be here.
Great having you.
Yeah, look, 100%. And I guess let's start off like we do with all our guests and get to know you both a bit better, starting with you, Chatreen. I know we spoke briefly on episode 8 of season 1 during a short apprenticeship segment, but if you could give our listeners a more in-depth look into your background, maybe tell us a bit about your upbringing, your experience in school, and what influences you in the industry today.
Thanks, Stephen and Keith, for bringing me on again. Really nice to be here. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Estonia and I moved to Ireland in 2004. Back then I grew up in Drogheda and I made my way to Dublin. And in Dublin I actually studied a bit of film and media. So my background, if you don't see my TikToks and stuff, it kind of tickles that creative side of me. So yeah, I did media and film originally, and I was working in the film industry. I was working on a film set and an electrician allowed me to roll up cables, and being a lighting technician, I was like, this is actually really fun. And he kind of explained to me, he said, go switch a breaker. And I was like, are you sure? And he was like, actually, no, that's a qualified electrician's job. We don't have enough. So I was like, maybe I could go be a qualified electrician. So I got my apprenticeship. It was a bit of a struggle. When I first wanted to get an apprenticeship, it was really hard for me to get my apprenticeship initially. I had to cold call people and beg people. I was like, please hire me. Because I was so nervous. Obviously, when I was in school, I didn't have any female role models, and there was nobody to say here's an apprenticeship, you should go do it. And if they did say to go do it, I was like, maybe there isn't supposed to be females because there isn't any other females. So I decided not to at the time, and I really regret it. I wish I went back to school. I wish I went straight after the Leaving Cert, but I'm also glad I went into the film industry because it made me realise that being an electrician doesn't just cover domestic. It doesn't just cover one industry. It's very broad.
Yeah, and what stage of the apprenticeship are you at now, Chatreen?
Currently, I'm in phase 2. I'm doing my phase 2 down in Mount Rat. I'm really, really enjoying it. And it does put into perspective a lot of things. And as well, as I said before, it makes me realise that the industry is a lot more broader than I actually initially thought. So I'm really glad that I'm getting that eye-opener experience that I didn't think that I would have gotten.
Yeah, it really opens up the broad range of jobs that you could potentially be doing as an electrician.
Yeah.
And maybe open up your eyes to maybe something else that you might like to do within the same industry.
100%. I think that my initial view of being an electrician was working in people's houses, which is obviously very important because we need them. But I didn't realise that it extends out to the broader view of smart controls, PLCs, manufacturing, anything. Now there's media side of things. So it does open up a perspective that I didn't realise was there. Even renewable energies, everything is great at the moment. So it does definitely open up your eyes to a lot of things.
And it kind of ties into the Building Heroes ethos as well, where awareness needs to be put forward to young people in school to let them know all these different avenues that they can take within the electrical industry or plumbing industry or any of those other industries.
Yeah, 100%. I think so. The initiative of Building Heroes is to promote apprenticeships. we're doing it in a way that we're giving people an authentic view into it. But when I initially Googled what is an electrician, what is a day in the life of an electrician, or yourself, what's a BIM technologist, I actually didn't even know what that was.
Either do we.
Yeah, no, but he'll explain. But I was Googling it, and it was all these commercialized people on LinkedIn being like, this is what you are going to do. And I was like, that is so sterile. So I'm really glad I'm a part of this initiative from Building Heroes. And it's showing people that, like, what I would have thought a tradesman is, or a tradesperson is a dirty man working on a dirty site with no real incentives for their own lives. And that's what I actually initially thought. So I'm really glad now I'm a part of this initiative to share and get rid of myths that we are dirty tradesmen.
Yeah, and like in school at the moment, like the only thing they're really doing to push people into the trades is transition year. Yeah. And doing work placement. So that's the only way the young people in school can really see our side of the industry. So the Building Heroes thing is directly in line with what young people are looking at on social media. So it's open to them to maybe, you know, venture into that side of the industries when they leave school.
Yeah, taking it back even to your phase 2, you mentioned there, obviously you're coming to the end of it now.
Yeah, I'm coming to the end of it now. So I have only a month left. I've already done my P1, which is a practical, which will, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a domestic layout. So you do everything that you would find in a domestic house. I personally don't really like domestic all that much. It's great for cash flow, but I won't promote that. But I do really like the other side of it, like motor control and stuff. So I'm glad I've opened my eyes to what I definitely know I don't like and what I definitely do like. But yeah, so we have motor control and we're doing industrial. My industrial exam is actually next week. So fingers crossed, girls.
Yeah, and talking about the industrial end of it, I had John Doherty on episode 1 of season 1. And I've filtered a lot of our listeners through to John Doherty as well. And I know I've been linked in with John Doherty about how he is helping students get through phase 2. And I think a lot of students, they might sort of misunderstand about how important it is to actually knuckle down and learn and try to get the most out of phase 2 because it sets them up then for the rest of their apprenticeship. Would you agree with that?
100%. I actually used, it was JD2 grinds, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah, I used John myself because initially I've been out of school for so long, and not that I'm not unintelligent, but I didn't initially get a lot of the maths because I've been in, like, film and media is English and person, it's not maths and science. So while I did it in school, it's a different part of your brain that actually is, and this is scientific proof, but it's a different part of your brain that you need to exercise. So actually understanding, getting back into a rhythm of using maths and science is a whole different ballgame. So I actually use them just to get a refresher back up on it. Actually, looking back on starting my phase 2, I wish somebody gave me like a crash course back in maths, because it's easy once you just get that part of your brain working again. Because it is actually a different part of your brain. 100%, I do agree. And the academic side of things, it's not hard by any means. You can definitely do it. It's 100% doable. Very easy stuff, but you just need to exercise that part of your brain. You need to like get back in the rhythm of things. Yeah,
and I think it's being able to know yourself, to know that you have to actually ask for that little bit of help. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, and you just sort of dive in, and then you're left drowning a bit then within the academic end of it. You know, you could be brilliant at the physical part of it and doing, you know, your pod work and getting all your stuff set up. But once you're drowning at the other end of it, the two of them have to co-align with each other. So you have to be able to, you know, get your academic end right and then get your pod work right in order to get the most out of the phase 2.
Yeah, I think that's 100% agreed. I wish more people told me how important the academic side of things is, because it's all well and good being able to do the physical work, but then when you're calculating the load for the wrong cable, you're setting fires in people's houses. So I think it's really important. I had a conversation earlier with a plumber. So the plumber was basically saying that plumbing, while it's still technical, it's more physical, but electrical is demanding on the brain. Like you need to use your head with it. It's danger, it's fire, it's electricity. We need to kind of respect that. So it's really important.
Yeah, no, it's a great insight for any young person wanting to go into the electrical trade. But look, I'd like to welcome Liam onto the podcast now. And look, me and Stephen are very interested in maybe learning a bit ourselves here on the podcast. So we know your journey into the industry has been slightly different to what people would expect to hear. So if you'd like to share with our listeners a little bit about your upbringing and the path you chose to take with your education and the doors it's opened for you personally.
Yeah, thanks for having me, lads. It's not the normal way of doing it, I suppose. I never really liked school, to be honest. I always had struggled in school with anxiety and depression, things like that. Bullying, and I'm sure a lot of people would relate to that. Like, so it came around, I think it was second year. It's nearly 10 years ago now, which is terrifying. I think it was second year I really decided, look, this isn't for me. Like, I just couldn't do it. I wasn't going in, fighting with my mum and dad every morning, being like, no, I'm not going in. And it was just too much for me. So I ended up leaving in second year, never actually did my junior cert properly in school. So I went into homeschooling then, which didn't really work out very well. Like your ma trying to teach a 15-year-old to sit down for 6 hours a day. So that didn't end up working, but I managed to get my junior cert done anyway. And then I went into Youth Train down in Wexford. So it's kind of like Youth Reach. No one really knows about Youth Train, but everyone knows about Youth Reach, where you go do your Leaving Cert Applied and all that. So they focus more on QQI stuff, so PLCs and level 4s, level 3s, which again, not very many people know about. But I ended up doing a trades level 4 then. So I did construction, which kind of got me going with being interested more and more in construction. But I've always been interested in the architecture, which is the main thing for me ever since a child. Like when I was little, I was playing The Sims and Minecraft, Lego, all that. So anyway, I went on then, and my parents were kind of like, all right, so you need to do your Leaving Cert now. And I was like, I didn't really want to, because after spending time in the trade and a more kind of relaxed education background, you don't really want to go into the rigidity of the Leaving Cert with your maths, your English, your geography, all that. So we started looking, and I think it took nearly a year to try find a different method, because to be honest, it's quite hidden.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find other methods than just the bog standard, do your Leaving Cert, get your points, CEO, in you go. So we ended up finding out that through PLCs, you can actually get into college. So I ended up then doing an engineering PLC, which was in around the lines of kind of architecture and stuff like that. So I did that in Enniscorthy, and that was a really good experience. I really enjoyed that. And that let me get into college down in SETU. Well, it was WIT then, but I'd be shot if I don't call it SETU. So.
And just Liam, just on, you mentioned there with mental health, obviously there could be parents listening to this that have kids in school at the minute and could be going through something quite similar where they're over stressing about leaving cert results and junior cert results. And I know Keith, your son, is in the middle of junior cert at the minute, and you know how stressful it can be. Just in your opinion, what do you think of the outlets that are out there for kids at the minute in order to be able to free up a bit of tension within themselves? Like, is there anything that you've done to relieve any of that tension from yourself?
Yeah, I think it's just realising, because there's such a stigma here, I think, around the Leaving Cert and the Junior Cert. It's like, it's the main thing, you go to school, you do your Junior Cert, you do your Leaving Cert. It's the biggest thing you'll ever do in your life. It's the biggest exam you'll ever do in your life. And the pressure that's put on, you're 16, 17, 18 doing your Leaving Cert, and you're expected to sit down, do these exams, and the outcome of those exams is going to define your entire life, which is the way they kind of push it. And I think as well, at that age, to be having to decide exactly what you want to do for the rest of your life just puts even more pressure on top of it. So I think there's just too much pressure put on it, and not knowing that you can do these other outlets to be able to get into it. I think there needs to be a bit more of a push on that,
Well, it's a real Irish thing, isn't it? Where your mum and dad say, if you don't study, you're going to be sorry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in this case, you went and did something that you were passionate about and that you really wanted to do, and you put all your efforts into that. So, yeah, as Stephen said, my son Callum is doing his junior cert, has no interest in history whatsoever. Expecting him to go and try and learn, do hours of learning on that when he has no interest in it, it's like flogging a dead horse, you know what I mean? So it's a something that needs to be highlighted, definitely.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think me personally as well, if I don't have an interest in something, I can't sit down and learn it. It's not something that'll go into my brain. And we're just forcing everyone to go into this one box when there's so many options out there and no one really knows about them.
Yeah, and did you find when you obviously made the decision yourself to drop out of school and go in the direction that you wanted to go in, that it did sort of open up your eyes and relieve some of the stress on your shoulders that might have built up over time while in school?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, because my whole time when I was debating dropping out and talking to my parents, talking to the principal, all this, I was told, oh well, this is it now. Have fun, flipping burgers or whatever, just being on the dole for the rest of your life. That's the push that they gave me. Like, they told me that, your life is over now. You're not doing your leaving cert. Give up. You're going to do nothing with your life. You're not going to succeed. And like, they kept saying to me, oh, you're so smart and everything. And the school was like, you're so smart. Why are you throwing it all away? Not realizing that I think personally, like if I had done my leaving cert, I don't think I'd be where I am today, because it let me do the things specifically. Like you said, that you can go down a specific avenue. If you have an interest in something, you can do courses, you can get a taste for it and be like, oh, I really like this, and then push yourself to go forward. And I think as well, back to saying what I was saying about like being 18, 19, you need to know what you want to do. Like you don't. Like I'm 23 now and I'm still in college, and sometimes I think, geez, if I had done my leaving cert, I'd be graduated by now, maybe even have my master's. But like, you don't need to be exactly where you're supposed to be by 21, which is kind of how we are raised to think. That you do your leaving cert, you go to college, you do your 3-4 years, whatever. All right, there you go. Now sit in your office until you retire. Don't think about doing anything else,
Yeah, look, I don't think myself and Keith are in any way qualified to be legislating for any type of changes within the educational system. But within the educational system, do you think it would be beneficial for some sort of review that when you get to the junior cert stage, that apprenticeships should be offered to students as part of the curriculum going forward between the junior cert and the leaving cert?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I think they need to show that these are the other options, because like I feel like apprentice is sometimes a dirty word in schools. Like, you leave at your junior cert and you go into an apprenticeship, and it's almost like a dirty word that they say, oh look, you're giving up now, go into an apprenticeship, not realizing the opportunities that has. And again, other courses as well, that you could do your junior cert, do your level 4 and then go into a PLC. You don't necessarily have to stay, but there's just this push from schools that, oh, do your leaving cert, don't do anything else. And even I think with PLCs, there's a bit of like stigma around them that, oh, you only do a PLC if you didn't get enough points, or you did, really bad in your leaving cert, so now you have to go do a PLC. But like, it just shows that you don't necessarily have to think that way, that there's so many other options than just going your bog standard route, going into college, all this. And it's just not really shown, I don't think.
Yeah, and in regards to being a BIM technologist, if you'd like to go just a bit deeper into what that actually entails.
Yeah, so no one really knows, to be honest, what BIM is.
I didn't know what BIM was.
I didn't want to be the first to say it.
The easiest way to explain it, and this is how our lecturer in first year, the first day we walked in. So when you play Minecraft, when you place a dirt block, let's say, the game knows, oh, he's placed a dirt block, or he's placed a wooden block, because the game knows inside the code of the game that block is wooden or whatever. So the way BIM works is when you're designing a building or you're doing whatever, each component you're placing has all that information. So instead of like AutoCAD or all these things where you're just doing dead lines and all this, with BIM, I could place a window, let's say from Munster Joinery, for example. And if I click on that window, it'll say it's made by them. This is how much it costs. This is where you go to get it. This is the codes for everything. So it basically kind of streamlines architecture and engineering down to, it's basically to mitigate mistakes is the whole point of BIM. Do you know what I mean?
It's not someone just drawing a window, a generic window. It's the specific window that's going to go in. Yeah, that's very clever, actually, yeah.
Exactly. So it means that when I specify a product, that's the product that's been put in. And when I'm doing details, I'm saying, well, this is the exact window. This is where you can go find it. And the hope of it is that if every, discipline is doing it, engineers, mechanicals, electricians, everything, if we're all using it and everything is linked together, there wouldn't be many mistakes. Because I'm sure you see it on site sometimes. You go out and you're supposed to be running a cable tray, let's say, through something, and then all of a sudden there's a beam in your way and you don't know what to do. This whole process is that when I'm looking at it, I'll say, hang on now, that beam is clashing with this or whatever. So the whole point of it is kind of reduce the timescales of how long things on site tend to take because of issues with CAD drawings and things where, person A is working on a CAD drawing from 3 months ago without realising that a new revision has come through. Whereas with BIM, they'll be told, hang on now, Liam has issued a new revision, change your model to reflect it. Do you know what I mean?
Cool.
It's very
I
interesting.
think that is so smart. I wish everybody was using that.
I know, so do I.
Honest to God, that would, and like communication is key on sites, and I think that would mitigate so many issues. So
And is that something that's just issued to like the builder, or is that actually given to the final customer?
It depends, to be honest. Sometimes the way it works is obviously you'll be making a 3D model, and then it depends on the client. It uses a common data environment, it's called. So the main one I'd use is Autodesk Construction Cloud, and you upload the models up onto it, you upload your sheets and everything, and you can give access to certain people. So like, for example, if you were working on it, I'd give you access to the electrical drawings, so you'd only see them, you wouldn't see anything else. So you sometimes with a client, you can say, oh, look, here's the architectural drawings, here's the 3D model. And like, you can put up reports, meetings, so they know what's going on without having to go ringing and ask it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we actually uploaded one of your projects to the Instagram page. So basically that was you designing or being part of the design process on that property, and then it coming to life. Is there satisfaction in seeing that being done?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, it's so fun. It's just like playing a video game. You bring in your model, and it's called Twin Motion is what I use to make that video. It's a rendering software. It's the same thing as most video games are built off of. And you just go in and you can make your video and you pull out images and all that. And it is a great satisfaction that when you start from sketching on graph paper to having a 3D model and seeing everything come to life. And it just makes the world a difference as well, because when you're sitting there looking at a 2D drawing, you're kind of saying to yourself, yeah, okay, that bedroom looks big enough. And then you bring it into 3D and you go, hang on now, you actually can't walk around this. So it lets you snag things a lot easier.
So the days of putting like paint on the floor of a slab, that's gone, is it? No tape on the floor. You're going to be able to tell us exactly the size of the room.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even with the advances in it, I haven't done much of it now myself, but virtual reality is becoming very big with the BIM stuff. So you put on your headset and you're standing in the building and you can walk around on site and at the same time walk through the 3D model. So you know exactly what's going to be going on.
Chatreen's looking to change trades here.
No, I think that is absolutely, like, I just think about how much advancements we can do in Ireland. Like, I know Germany is way ahead of us, but I think in Ireland there's so much potential. If we'd all just get on board and we can all drive sail and we can be like the Germans. I just think that is a great way to communicate projects. I just think that is amazing, honest to God.
Talking about the Germans, I take it that type of course could take you worldwide once you've got the qualification.
Oh God, yeah. Like, they always say we're like gold BIM technologists and architectural technologists, because no one really knows what architectural technology is. Everyone is like, oh, I'm going to be an architect. So they go into architecture. To put it into perspective, when I started in first year, I think there was 400 architecture first year students, and there was 20 people in my course, because everyone just goes into architecture. No one knows what architectural technology is, because there's this old stigma, I think, still where, oh, they're the person under the architect. They're the draftsman the architect gives orders to. Which isn't the case anymore, like, because you can go into all these avenues of BIM and MEP and clash detection, and, there's just so many things you can go into with it that doesn't necessarily have to mean your domestic architecture or anything like that.
And then the technology then just keeps rolling with it as well, where you have to try and keep up with that as well at the same time.
Oh yeah, like, you're constantly learning. It's not something that when you finish your degree, all right, there you go now, you're fine. Like, I'd say every day I learn something new, because you're just looking around, you're on LinkedIn or whatever, and you just see, oh, that looks cool, an AI tool for this or that, and you just explore it because it is fun. They told us when we started college, they were like, this will ruin your life. They were like, you're going to be destroyed. And we were all like, what are you on about? And I remember something that I always tell, we were in the pub one night, me and a few of my friends who were in the course, and everyone around us was, talking about going to the nightclub and all this. And we were sitting there looking at the ceiling, looking at the insulation, wondering how they managed to put the insulation up there. And then we all looked around and kind of went, oh yeah, so Brian was right, we have been ruined.
Yeah.
So electricians aren't the only ones that are looking at the ceilings as they're walking around.
When I walk into a building, that's the first thing I look at. Fly fit. That is the worst place to go.
I worked in a fly fit, yeah.
Oh, I can tell.
All the crooked pipes, yeah.
There is other gyms available.
No, it does ruin your life 100%.
Look, Chatreen, as a female in the construction industry, how was your experience being to date? I know we asked you, we didn't have you on long enough the last time. So if you'd like to go into that, and like in regards to squashing the stigma around, women in the workplace, how has your experience been?
My experience has been so good so far. And obviously, look, there are bad days, but it's not because I'm a female in the trade. It's because of the job and settings and other people. That's like in every single job, you're going to have a bit of conflict, but it's not necessarily because I'm a woman. So my initial experience in construction, because I know myself and I'm quite an outgoing and bubbly person anyway, I don't really see any of the negatives. And I think I'm slightly delusional. I think like, I'm supposed to be here, so I don't feel awkward anyway. So when I walk into a site, obviously I'll be a bit shaky, like it's a bit nerve wracking anyway, but I wouldn't be, I don't think, God, these people are going to judge me because I'm a woman. It's not like that. So I think it's down to my confidence within myself, which is, I hold very highly of myself. So, but other than that, like I don't really see any negativity towards me because I'm a woman in construction. And I've had a really good experience. And that's down to the employers that I've had, the training that I've had, the community that I've built, and the community that you guys have even built. It's amazing being able to have a network and have support within the industry. And it's the same for any industry. But I think when you compare the trades and the construction industry to any other industry, it's not the same. We don't have that tight-knit community. Now, it could be because we're in Ireland and the construction industry is quite small. But I think in the last year from when I initially started, there definitely was some issues. But I think in the last 6 months especially, I've seen such a massive difference. I don't think any person that I've worked with in the last 6 months, they haven't not worked with a female. And the more and more that and especially when I went to my phase 2, that one lecture has taught, I think, 24 ladies. So now I know there's small numbers, we're going to get bigger in the next few years, but I think they're really good numbers for what it was 6 months ago. So far my experience has been really, really good. And I'm kind of glad that I'm able to share my experience online to show that like, it's not just me, it's everyone.
I suppose me and Stephen, as what would you call us, seasoned professionals now in the electrical game, like what you said there, 24 people coming through or women coming through the apprenticeship scheme with that one lecturer. I don't know, Stephen, have you ever worked with a woman or a girl on site in the time that you've been an electrician?
No, that's what I'm saying. I've never had the opportunity or the pleasure of being able to work in any type of diverse situation like that, which I think is great because I think it only excels the industry to be able to show that, you know, it's not about female and male within the industry. It's an electrician, you know, and it doesn't matter about your gender. You're an electrician at the end of the day. And, you know, there could be somebody like yourself, Keith, with the big muscles working up on the roof, putting up the solar panels, or somebody like me with the little beer belly on me that, you know, can't get up to the second rung of the ladder sometimes, like, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, everybody, no matter if you're male or female, we're all built slightly different. And I don't think the stigma that is set or has been set over many years now about, you know, strength is different, and so that there's a lot of women out there that I see on Instagram that are pushing a lot harder than some of the men that I see pushing on there. So I think fair play to you, and I just hope that with the community that you are building on Instagram with the likes of yourself and Alicia and there's a load more people,
even
from
Kimmy
from the UK, and I just think it's brilliant that you all have that community together and you are all pushing that same message out there.
And I think that's really valid what you're saying. I'm really glad that I've built those female friendships and relationships with people within the industry, because I went from film where everyone was a man, and again back into another industry where everyone is a man. But the value that a woman brings to a team, and it's not about being a woman, but it's our biology. We are wired differently. Like, this is science. So what we can bring to a project is diversity, and it's important to have diversity and decision making at a table. And you're on massive projects, Liam, I'm sure like your teams are quite diverse.
Oh yeah.
Because it's important to have diversity, because if you have a man filled room, you're only going to get the one opinion, because there is no conflict, unless, like, obviously there is different opinions, but you need diversity within a room, especially with big decisions. So I think what you were saying is very valid.
No, 100%. And even to the point where we're doing our podcast and we're having like the female guests on, me and Stephen are really opening our eyes up to it now, which is like, it's just something we haven't been, you know, subjected to through our careers, which is a bit mad, isn't it?
Yeah. I do think it's crazy, like even speaking to people and old mentors that I've had, or people who have taught me how to be an electrician, it's crazy to me that they haven't worked with females, because I think it's really normal. And it's like, even my friends, my girlfriends who are not in the industry, they're like, that is wild. But I'm like, this is not crazy to me, because I'm seeing so many girls and I'm surrounded by girls. So like, I have girls from other companies and stuff that we're quite close. So we all just think it's kind of normal. So my delusion is there, definitely. But I realise that it is, like, obviously still not good enough, but we need more. But I'm happy where I am, and I haven't had too much of a negative experience. And any negative experiences that do come, it's down to a person's mindset and what they've been brought up by. And obviously we're a Catholic country. I did mention this in the other podcast. We are a Catholic country, and the woman's place was at the home as a homemaker. Well, we can still do that, but we're not bound to it anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
It's about choice, really, isn't it?
I think it is great, because I know even when it comes down to even the podcast, like you mentioned, Key, when you go down into the background of the podcast and a lot of the administration end of it that comes in, the ideas that come from even Keith's wife, Jen, or my wife, Denise, some things that would never run through myself and Keith's mind. And it's like what you mentioned, it's getting another, avenue from somebody else where you're just saying, I never thought about going down that route. Yeah. And now that you've actually opened up that, mindset to me, it's just blown my mind, where I've just, there's so many opportunities in my head now. And it's just, if I didn't have that sort of conversation with my wife, or even like yourself, Key, with Jen, like we would just be stagnant with the podcast. So I think that's a great bit of an insight there, Chatreen.
It definitely is a woman's touch with some things. And and look, I suppose on the domestic end, I would notice it a lot more. Like we said, we've been around the game a little bit now. But on the domestic end, like we're going out to domestic properties now, and, it's nearly 50-50 where you're going to find a stay-at-home dad. Yeah. And it's actually the dad in that, or the husband would have the more maternal instinct than the wife would. So basically the wife would be the professional, the breadwinner in that home. And we're noticing that a lot lately, like even to the point where we're setting up solar systems. You'd think that you'd be setting it up with maybe the man of the house, but 9 times out of 10, it's the woman of the house. Yeah,
and I have a friend who's a psychologist, and I would love a study for this to be done. But a woman's drive now, not to, like, we can be equal on drive, but I feel like a woman has, because we've been, I'm not going to say suppressed, but we've had less opportunities before. Now we're fighting a lot more harder, so I think we get better opportunities. And I definitely see it with myself, because when I first started my trade, I was like, I need to prove myself. They have pre-made conceptions of me already, so I felt like I need to prove myself, which now I'm glad I don't need to do that anymore. But there definitely is some truth to that, 100%. And growing up myself, my dad was the breadwinner, but my grandmother she was a hardware engineer, and my grandmother was an absolute legend. And seeing her drive for what she wanted, and they were equal, they had an equal household, but they were Catholics, and now my granny's like 70, 80. So all that time, she was always a breadwinner. So I really look up to my granny in that respect.
And that's brilliant. And even to the point of being at home, I know your wife, Denise, Stephen, has a brilliant job as well. My wife is 50-50 in my company, and I constantly tell her, like, it wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for her. Do you know what I mean? I'm good at doing the work. She's good at doing the paperwork. You know what I mean? So it's definitely gone 50-50 for me, Steve. I don't know about you. What do you think?
No, I'm definitely 30%. Denise is definitely the 70% there. Denise is the boss.
Yeah, I think it's just about personal skill. Like, I'm sure not everyone's going to go and be an electrician. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It's just about your personal strengths. Yeah. Mine just happen to be hands-on. So it's not to say like everyone needs to be let the woman do it, but it's just about your skills. Like, I grew up with wrenches and spanners in my hand and my head in a tractor. So that's just naturally where I'm going to come from. And I find like females who go into the trade, they're farmers. They all are. So, and same goes for myself. Like, my dad would have taken me on the weekend. So like, I just grew up hands-on. So it's not for everybody, but if it is and you happen to be female, it's great. So, well,
that's why even myself and Keith, like, we're obviously when this episode airs, we'll have been at the Electrical Awards in Clontarf Castle, and we were lucky enough to be invited to it, and the seats were actually given to us by Electrical Magazine, which was a great honour for us. And myself and Keith straight away just turned and said, we're not going on our own. Like, you know what I mean? We're getting the seats for the wives, like, because it is a team effort. Like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, you can talk about female and males and, you know, the effort that goes in physically on things, and then there's the effort that goes in mentally on things. And I think when you conjoin all that together, it is, like I said, a team effort.
Yeah, and a partnership, yeah.
It's all a team. At the end of the day, everything's a team. Whether it's 2 men, 2 women, 2 male, female, doesn't matter. It's
100%.
everything's a team.
Yep.
And Liam, I guess we'll get into a little bit about Building Heroes and what it's all about and what message that you and everyone involved in Building Heroes are trying to share. I guess the awareness that it's raising and the initiatives that they're doing reaches not only school leavers but parents as well. How important do you feel it is to have clear guidance like this being shared through accessible platforms?
Yeah, so the whole point of Building Heroes is to kind of show, like you said, parents and school leavers and kids in school of all the different options in construction, because there is kind of this stigma that you think, oh, if you go into a trade, you go into construction, you're going to be on a dirty wet site, you're going to be doing labouring and hauling things and all this, and to show that, you know, there's apprenticeships, there's architecture, there's engineering, there's all these things. So the whole point of Building Heroes is for each of us to kind of show our disciplines on social media over LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everything, to give an insight into what a day in our lives are like, what kind of things we do, how we do them, and how you can get into these things. Because kind of harping back to what I was talking about, the fact that a lot of these avenues aren't really advertised. So another big point of that is to show off, look, this is what you could do if you have an interest in working with your hands, or you have an interest in architecture or engineering. These are the other options you can go into without necessarily having to go the traditional route.
Yeah, and do Building Heroes, do they give you a bit of support in regards to your social media?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, we have a group chat where we all kind of bounce off each other and we send in ideas and kind of rough drafts of the videos, and they give us support and show us, you know, what we could add, things like that, help us with all those things, and then promote our own social medias as well.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think I would have loved something like that now when I started out.
Yeah, and look, in terms of, you know, Ireland and the shortage of houses as well, like I presume the main thing, or one of the initiatives, is to try and get our own, you know, school leavers into the trades and build houses for the Irish future, basically.
Oh, 100%. Like, we have a real problem of the lack of trades in this country, and I think that's one of the main things with the housing crisis, that there's just no one to build the houses, and that's why prices are skyrocketing. So things like this to get a push for the younger generation to get into it, because at the end of the day, it's our generation that's going to have to continue it.
Plus, like, the need for houses, it's, you know, it's not, work is not going to go away anytime soon. So it is a reliable job for anybody leaving school. And, like, you know, with the youth of today, you kind of have to emphasise that there is money to be made in, you know, the trades as well. So you could have a really successful career in a trade. Yeah. So, Chatreen, we know you're fairly prominent on social media. What do you think, like, in terms of it being an important tool for influencing people and, I suppose, teaching people about the trades and the different techniques? How do you find it?
I find it, like, my username is added to her tool bag, and I didn't realise that social media would be a tool to me. I think the one thing that I'm really grateful for being a part of this programme is that I'm able, like I said earlier, when I Googled a day in the life of an electrician, I wasn't expecting a vlog, but I didn't know what it was going to be like. So I'm really glad that I'm able to showcase what, like, give people a bit more peace of mind of what it's going to be, and that it's doable. It's so doable from the academic side and from the practical side. I think this is so important to be able to showcase it. And even jobs like yourself, like when you were talking about how you got into your side, I gasped because I didn't know that this was a real thing, and I wish now I did that. So we've all learned something today. But I think it's a really important tool, especially for people wanting to come into the trade, and for people who are younger and parents especially. Like, I know what your parents' reaction was. So I think it's really important to have a chiller way to come to parents and younger people about 17, 16 to start thinking about these things, because if it's not put in front of them, they're not going to know. Because I didn't know about half the jobs that was put into the construction industry beforehand, whether it's office or trade-based. So to put it in front of them and let them know, like, this is here, there's money to be made. A graduate from engineering only gets 33,000. And when you graduate as, let's say, an apprentice electrician, you're on, I think it's like 55. So that's a very big difference. If you've already had your 4 years on site. So it's a big difference. If you want to go to college, you can do that. But I'm just letting you know, like, there is money to be made here, and the industry is booming. And like you said, AI is massive.
Yeah.
But AI will never replace us. 100%. It is absolutely impossible to replace us.
Oh,
and
100%.
100%. And I do not believe for a second that the trades will be replaced. So I think it's great that we're being able to be inside of the trades. Now, obviously, we can use AI to our advantage and technology, but at the end of the day, AI is not going to rewire a house. AI is not going to wire up commercial buildings and create factories. So it's a sturdy, stable job that pays well. And I don't know why people don't go into trades, whether it's not the trades, but it's still construction. It's so important. When you're listening to this podcast now, everything around you was built by somebody, and AI will not replace that.
Yeah, and you make a great point there, because like in terms of manufacturing, like a lot of things are going robotic and automated. I think you make a great point there that like going into the trades is it's a bit of a no-brainer, you know, coming out of school.
Yeah, and I wish when I was coming out of school, now I'm glad I took the route that I did because creative and life happens, but I'm really glad that I was able to go into the trades, but I do wish I did it earlier. Like I'm 24 now and I'm only in phase 2. Now it doesn't matter, but I do wish I did it earlier, honestly. I do.
Well, that's what this is all about, is trying to give people a head start, or the younger people a head start in making their decisions.
Yeah, so I think Building Heroes initiative is absolutely amazing. I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chatreen. That's a great bit of a look into the earning ability post-qualification. Liam, in regards to undergoing a degree in college and gaining practical experience within a company, could you explain to our listeners how that process works?
Yeah, so I'm just after finishing third year now of my course. So I have 1 year left, which is terrifying because I remember starting like it was yesterday. But anyway, and in third year we do industrial placement. So we'll go off and spend, I think it's 12 weeks in a company. So I actually started with the company I'm with now, Man Fox Architects down in Wexford. I started with them the previous summer. They'd reached out to the college and asked if there was any students who'd be interested in coming in and doing a bit of placement over the summer, you know. So I ended up starting there, I think it was May last year. I was actually there a year, only a few weeks ago. And yeah, no, it's been great to get that hands-on experience because, you know, it's all well and good to learn these things in college, especially with architecture where budgets aren't a thing, or, you know, you can design whatever you want and have fun. Whereas when you're in work, it's real life, you know, you have a client, you have a budget. So it's great to be able to get the hands-on experience and learn off professionals as well. And it's really helped with my degree 100%. Like I think going into fourth year now, I feel like I'm going to absolutely walk through it now after getting the experience of working in an actual company.
Yeah, and working with the company that you work for, do you have mentors in there that you can bounce off?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the lads are amazing in there. They're so helpful. You know, there's nothing, if you have anything, any issues, anything like that, and you go to it with them, there's no judgment or anything. Even if it's something silly, there won't be a kind of like, oh, what are you doing? Because it's such a small company. There's only 6 of us, I think, if I'm counting right. Hopefully I don't mean leave anyone out with that. But like, I feel like being in a small company like that, everyone has to work together. Everyone has to know each other. You have to know what you're doing. Whereas if like you're in a big company, you know, what I found is like if you're in a big company, if you're a student intern, you're just going to be intern number whatever, sitting in the corner and no one really knows you. And they just say, all right, here, have a go, do a window schedule there, do a door schedule. Whereas here, you know, I've been project lead on a few projects, which is incredible. Like to be able to say, oh, I'm just after finishing third year and I've done 2 projects and my name is on it. My name is on the planning application. My name is on the site notice. So it's amazing to get that kind of experience.
Yeah, fair play to you. And I think myself and Chatreen might have spoke about this before when we done the podcast in season 1 in regards to supports that are in place for apprentices. Is there supports that are in place for students if they were going and doing work placement and then going back to college? Can you get any supports from the government?
No, not really. It's kind of up to the company themselves to pay you. Like the college kind of says at minimum we're supposed to be paid the minimum wage, but there's nothing really there to kind of say, oh, they have to be paid. Like I know, now to be fair, everyone I know who's gone and got it, we've gotten paid and we're getting paid well enough, but you know, they don't necessarily have to pay you. You could be an unpaid intern, which wouldn't be the best, but sure, look, at the end of the day, it's experience rather than money is what they say.
Yeah, look, Liam, obviously you're doing something right in there because you're going to be representing Ireland in the World Skills 2024. The competition's in Leon this year. And like, how did this opportunity come about? And are you looking forward to the experience?
Yeah, so it's incredible experience. Like it came about, it was there the summer of second year it came about. My lecturer approached me. Normally third years are only kind of the people who do the competition. So the way it works is, better to explain that first, is there's a regional competition, a national competition, and then there's the world competition. So each college kind of does a regional one. So I did the Southeast regional competition last year. And like I said, there was space left over, I think is how it happened. And our lecturer approached us, me and a few of the lads, and was like, look, do you want to have a go? You know, get a bit of experience, nothing will come of it probably, whatever. Ended up doing it and I ended up qualifying. So after that, we went up to the RDS and we did the World Skills Ireland competition. So that was last September. And that was an amazing experience. It was done at the same time as Higher Options. It was done at the same time as Higher Options, which was an amazing experience because you had all the secondary school students walking around you and there was so much buzz going on. And not a lot of people know about it as well. So it was great to get that exposure. But anyway, I ended up winning the Irish title, so I got an Irish medal and all this, and that qualified me to move on to do the World Skills in Lyon this year. So I'll be going over, I think it's the 6th of September, maybe not 100% about that, but I'll be going over there and yeah, I can't wait to do it. I think there's nearly 1,200 or more people taking part in it from all over the world.
That's brilliant.
That's amazing.
Fair play to you, Liam.
Yeah,
That's exciting times.
A great representative for Ireland to have going over there. And I think, it's only hearing people actually being able to take part in such competitions like that can only give other people that were in the trades right now the drive to try and push themselves a bit further and maybe even, get to where you are now. And I think fair play to you for that. Chatreen, just on yourself and finishing up in something quite important right now, which is your phase 2. You'll be finishing up fairly soon. I was just wondering, how has your experience been in the process as a whole, and has it opened your eyes to what you want to do in your apprenticeship going forward and what you want to do in the future after you come back out onto site again?
Yeah, 100%. While I'm in my phase 2, like I said earlier, I definitely realised, number one, definitely I don't want to do domestic. I definitely want to stay in industrial. Luckily, my current employer is a designer group. They are an industrial and commercial contractor, so I'm very grateful I'm in the right company to facilitate that. And they do a lot of controls and a lot more complex engineering, which I'm very interested in. So I'm really glad now my phase 2, I've confirmed that is definitely what I wanted to do. Before I went to my phase 2, I was having a bit of worries. I was like, oh my God, maybe I should be in domestic, because I was like, this is going to be a little bit easier. And now that I'm in my phase 2, I realised there is so much more either complex, there's different avenues, there's renewable energies is coming in. We have agricultural renewable energies now. So there is a lot more in the pipeline. So I'm very glad now I'm with an industrial company that can facilitate those things. Another thing that my company does is they take you in for training days. So the likes of motor control and PLCs and stuff that bring you in doing a few days or one day a month or every 2 months to try to get you up to scratch. So before you go away for your phases. Now, I didn't get to do that, but they are bringing that in, which is a great thing. So I'm very delighted to be a part of that and to have someone support you through your apprenticeship, not just in your basic skills, which you get as an apprentice. Having other supports put in place is quite great.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's a great bit of background on that company, and I suppose for any young apprentice maybe looking to make a change in their early careers, that like Designer Group, for example, are offering workshops where they can upskill their employees from early age, even in terms of in the middle of their apprenticeship. It's quite brave from them, and it's only going to attract a better quality apprentice, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%, because I think the current apprenticeship system, while it is great, there is still improvements to be made, and that's on the employer's responsibility. It's not just the college's responsibility, because you learn the basics in college, and it's the basics of everything. It's the principles of energy, electricity, power. You're learning only the basics. It's up to your employer to get you specialised or get you up to a certain standard. So I think by having those facilities, it's actually quite amazing, to be honest. I've done PAT testing and I've done little skills that I wouldn't get in a basic apprenticeship. So I'm quite lucky in that sense. And what you were saying earlier on about a massive company, they're big, but they're not that big where you're just a number.
Yeah.
With the likes of the leading companies. So I feel like I'm in a good place and I feel supported. So I'm quite grateful now. So
yeah, and I think that sort of builds up a little pedestal for yourself as well. And it's you start from, if you're thinking about it in the Olympics or whatever, you can be at a bronze medal, you can work up to a silver, and then like what Liam was mentioning before, you have that gold then to try and get that gold medal, which is you know, your career, getting your gold card, is what they say in the UK, or, you know, you get your qualification card here in Ireland. And I think when you walk out at the end of your apprenticeship with that card, it's validation for all the hard work that you've put in.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, fair play to you, Chatreen.
Yeah, 100%. It's just really important to me to do the best that I can and have good supports around. So I'm really glad.
And it's good to see your companies facilitating that for you.
Yeah,
as well.
and I think it's less scarier if you're going into a site. It's a lot less scary, especially as a woman. You're kind of integrated well, and that's one thing that I do credit them for, and the upskilling and believing in their people. So
that's brilliant. And look, Liam, looking forward, is there anything that you would like to see implemented or changed to help support apprentices and trainees to succeed?
Yeah, I think definitely there needs to be more advertising done in schools, especially, and through the government initiatives like Building Heroes, things like this, but even more on a deeper level in schools to be like, look, because people get lost in the system. I definitely think, you know, if they're troublemakers or they're anxious, they don't come into school, they kind of get pushed to the side and they focus on, you know, the smart lads, the GA lads, whatever. And no one really sees those people. So I think they need to kind of show that, look, I see you're struggling, or I see this isn't for you, you're acting out, whatever. Why don't you try a trade? Why don't you try going into a PLC? Why don't you try not doing your Leaving Cert? You know, there's all these different avenues instead of having it be so hidden and not shown by the government or by schools. I think that's the big thing that needs to be done, and I hope it has changed. Like I said, it's been 10 years since I've been in school, but I don't think it has, to be quite honest with you.
Is it like in terms of maybe taking it away as being the last option?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think the Leaving Cert should be on this pedestal. It shouldn't be this big golden thing that, oh, you don't have your Leaving Cert, womp. You know, that's it. Yeah. Like, everything's over for you. Because like I said earlier, I don't think if I had stayed in school and done my Leaving Cert, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here chatting to you lads. Like, I don't think so. I probably wouldn't be.
You wouldn't be going to Leon in September?
100%. Like, definitely. I wouldn't be doing World Skills. I wouldn't be where I am because I was able to kind of forge a path for myself. And yeah, it was tough and it took a lot out of me, but it builds that strength as well to know this is what I want and this is how I can get it without having to feel like you're going to fail and anything like that. And to be able to skill yourself specifically. I wanted to do architecture, so that's why I went and done. But like, loads of people don't realise you can actually get into medicine through PLCs as well. You can do a science PLC and you can get into medicine. You can get into nursing through a PLC. Like, no one realises that you don't have to get your 600 points or whatever. And if you don't, well, that's it. Bye-bye, try again. You know, you can get into so many different things through PLCs and it's just not shown.
It's brilliant. Great message to share. And I guess, Chatreen, I know we've spoke about this before and we've probably spoke about it privately as well through Instagram and DMs, and I in no way expect you to advocate for other apprentices, but obviously you're in there at the minute. You're in I'd say the depths of your apprenticeship right now, where you can actually get talking to other apprentices and hearing what type of issues they're having. So same question to you. What do you think could be implemented within the system to help apprentices succeed? Yeah,
100%. I'm not speaking on behalf of every single person, of course, but one thing that I'm getting back, a lot of my my classmates, they would say like a lot of math supports need to be put in place, because it's a bit, if you're like yourself, you're 10 years out of school and then going into something like this, you would need math. So I think math supports, number one, need to be in place. And I also think that there needs to be less stigma put around it. And there is still stigma here. I think we just need more awareness, and this is what we're a part of at the moment.
Exactly. Like,
so I think what we're doing is...
It's just breaking down the fact that, you know, the Leaving Cert isn't everything.
Yeah,
and that's
100%.
the biggest thing for me personally, but I think a lot of people relate to that you don't necessarily need to go the traditional route.
No,
and you might be better off by not doing it.
Yeah, I think I think the trades is a great place for that different personality, let's say. Because I know for myself, I can't look at a book and learn. That's impossible for me. I need to be doing something. I need to be engaged and like using my actual head rather than like just reciting something for the sake of 600 points.
Yeah.
So this suits me a lot better. So I think another thing that needs to be put in place as well, apprentices are paid, and I think it's so fair to be paid. Now, there's an argument ongoing, and I won't get too much into it, but people do argue about it should be minimum wage for apprentices, because I personally do stand with that and I do resonate with that. So another thing that I do think should be implemented is a fair wage. And look, obviously I can understand and appreciate that we are learning as we're in college, more or less, we can call this college. But I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of apprentices out there, and I've spoken to them directly, who are with smaller contractors who are being treated as slave labour, and I don't think that's fair. Now, while I agree that the big companies aren't doing that, maybe some are, and people can make up their own decision. But going off what I was being told, that there is a lot more smaller companies who don't get penalised by the law, and I think there needs to be some sort of legislation put in place, because if I worked in an office doing an office job, which I would be doing less than what I would be doing as a first year apprentice, that would be classed as slavery. So I think there needs to be more legislation put in place, and more of a system, a more stern system put in place to monitor what people are being paid and what they're doing for payment.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, I'd only be more than happy for that to come in. Like, obviously, just going back to what Liam was saying about the leaving cert, I have a prime example within my ranks, or my employees, my nephew Daniel. So he had a big decision to make a couple of years ago. So was he going to stay in school, or was he going to come and start an apprenticeship with me? And he chose to come and start an apprenticeship with me. And Stephen's met him on site a couple of times. Stephen knows him well, and he's thriving. You know what I mean? Where he didn't like school, was disinterested in school, and now he's absolutely thriving. He's bought himself a car. I have him in a van. He's doing his own jobs, obviously supervised, doing a great job.
Yeah, 100%. I think young people don't realise that there is opportunities there.
Yeah, look, I think it's bringing it back to what Chatreen was saying as well. Like, I know you look after your apprentices very well, and obviously Chatreen is shown the other side of the book, where, you know, apprentices could be just taken on for a project, used, and then let go, or, you know, not even like being paid the right phase rate in order to, you know, make ends meet at the end of the week. And I think that's very tough on, you know, we all see as an apprentice as a school leaver, you know, somebody that might be living with their parents, but there's adult learners out there now that are starting apprenticeships as well, that have mortgages.
Yeah, great point.
That's so valid, and that's exactly what I was trying to say. I 100% advocate for the people who, like myself, I'm a sole independent, so I don't have anyone relying on me, but I am relying for myself. I currently live in Dublin during the housing crisis, so it's really tough for me. As a first year, I worked now. Revenue's not listening, so I was working 3 jobs just to make ends meet, just as a first year, because I just knew that this was going to be the career that I wanted to do. So it made sense for me to get paid a little bit, and a little bit goes a long way. But still, at that, I still needed to work 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and I still need to do another job just to make ends meet as well, like as a second year. So while the money will be good in the long run, and I appreciate that, but it's still, you need to make ends meet for the first 2 years, because they're the formative habits. And when you're worrying about other things, you're not going to get those good habits at the start. So I think it's important to invest in the start of the apprenticeship. And I know you're 3 and 4, your 3rd and 4th year, they're amazing money, great. But you need to invest at the start where you're getting those habits, and what would actually make you a good electrician.
Keep keeping the interest as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And then, like what you said, Stephen, in terms of, you know, maybe an older person trying to provide for his family and take a career, like a career change, it works on the flip side as well, where you might have a young adult that's, you know, might have a single parent that he or she has been helping out with the, you know, the running of the house, you know what I mean? Could have been working in a factory job or in a shop, and they're, you know, subsidising the rent or whatever, and then they decide for themselves that they want to go into an apprenticeship, not to be hindered or not to be restricted in taking that job just because the money's not there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know, and what I kind of find a catalyst, that the housing crisis is so prevalent, but then the person cannot pay his rent because he's working to build a future for Ireland, but he can't live in Ireland. So, do you know, there is that catch-22, and I don't want to get too political here, but it's such a massive issue. And anyone that I've spoken to, they're quite young lads, like, and they're having the same issues. So it's a massive issue.
Yeah, like for me personally, you know, I get to design these beautiful houses for clients and put all my heart into them, and I sit there sometimes and think, Jesus, I don't think I'll ever be able to build my own house in this country because of the way things have gone.
Yeah.
Even to little things where we're fitting out a house down the south side of Dublin with heritage brass switches, and each switch would cost €50, and I'm fitting them for somebody and knowing well I'm not going to be able to fit my house out with that. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a very important point to bring up, and I don't think we shy away from any topic on this podcast. So fair play to you for bringing that up, Chatreen. Liam, just for anybody who might find themselves in a similar position that you were in while you were in school, what advice would you give them to follow in your footsteps?
I think the main thing I tell them is, you're only young. It's only right now. This isn't the end of the world. And I know there's probably a lot of people around you telling you it is the end of the world, that if you're deciding, no, I'm done, I'm dropping out of school, you might have your parents saying, what are you doing? You might have your school saying, what are you doing? But look, you have to do what you need to do for yourself, and you need to know that there are so many options out there that you won't know about yet, but hopefully now you can know what you can do with where you are. You won't have to just think, oh, this is it. I'm leaving school now. This is the end. And just know that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what age you are or what age you're going to be. You could be 20, you could be 30, you could be 40. You're going to end up where you're supposed to end up. And that's how I feel. Like I said earlier, I don't think I would be here on this podcast or I'd be doing World Skills if I hadn't left school. So at the end of the day, there is a path set for you and you will end up where you need to end up at the end of the day.
Yeah, so it's do what's right for you, in a sense.
Yeah, focus on yourself. Do what you need to do, and you know yourself better than anyone. And if it isn't for you, just find something else to do.
And Chatreen, for any girls out there listening to the podcast and maybe thinking, I want to be like Chatreen.
You don't fully want to be like me.
What advice? I don't think you're doing too bad. So, what advice would you give to them?
When you decide that you might want to go into trade, just do it. Don't worry about your gender. I'm delusional, as you can already hear from the podcast. Just run with delusion. Just say it doesn't matter about the gender. You're just walking into a room full of people, look at them, smile at them, acknowledge them. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. You're gonna do it, and you can do it. Just go for it. Stop worrying about it. Just don't overthink it. Go for it.
Well, look, on behalf of myself and Stephen, I'd like to thank the two of you very much for joining us on the podcast and sharing your journeys and your insights. Look, where can our listeners find out more about yourselves and what you do? Chatreen, if you'd like to go first.
So you can find me at Added to Her Tool Bag on Instagram, and then click the bio to find my TikTok because my name is too complicated to spell.
And you can find me on Instagram at @leam_architecture.
Yeah, and look, backing up what Keith said, delighted to have you. It's been a real pleasure. And for anyone looking to learn more about Building Heroes, you can find them on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube at Building Heroes IRL. But before we let you go, we ask each guest to add one song to the Season 3 Spotify playlist. Chatreen, what would your song of choice be?
My song's going to be Nickelback, How You Remind Me.
Nickelback, love it. And Liam, what's your song choice?
I'm going to have to choose something from Charlie XCX's new album, so I'm going to go with 360.
360, Charlie XCX. Brilliant. So, Liam, we're going to play out this guest interview with your song choice. And Chatreen, we're going to play out the Overload segment to your song choice. Delighted to have you. Thanks for coming on. Take it easy. Have a good one.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks very much to the both of you.
Right, Key. That was great having the two ambassadors there from Building Heroes Ireland on, Chatreen and Liam. It was definitely a brilliant insight for anybody who's currently just about to leave school, or even adult learners who are looking to pivot in their careers into the construction industry or into the trade industry through an apprenticeship or a trainee program. So I think it can only be beneficial for them.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you, Stephen. And all I could think of going through the interview with both of them was, wouldn't it have been brilliant to have something like that when we were growing up, and to be able to, I suppose, influence us in, decisions on our career paths. But look, it's here now, and fair play to them. And they really did the scheme proud, and their companies proud, and most of all themselves proud as well. So brilliant, well done.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I was thinking, if we had had that growing up, it definitely would have made things a lot easier for us. But I guess us doing the podcast now, we'll just try to help promote what they're doing and try to be a conduit in order for them to get as much information out there as possible. So fair play to them. And look, I guess now it's the perfect time to get into this episode's installment of The Overload.
The Overload segment. Now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
Hey Keith, we're back, another Overload segment, and since we had Henry Dean on last week, I've just been inundated with messages about how great of a chat it was, giving an insight into the behind the scenes of being a self-employed contractor. And I just thought to myself, doing a bit of research during the week, what does it take to set up an electrical business?
Well, to be honest, there's a lot of elements that are equally as important as each other that you have to factor in when, starting your own electrical business. And look, some of them you don't even think about before you even start, but you learn along the way. So when you came to me during the week and said, look, will we do a segment on this? I was more than happy to do it, because so look, I'm sure Henry and the lads are the same. Like you learn the hard way, but like if we can give a bit of insight into, someone that's on the cusp or might be thinking about going into their own, going solo, we can help them out. So brilliant.
Yeah, and I guess starting out, do you have to set yourself an achievement for your business to be able to reach?
Yeah, well, I suppose the first question you kind of have to ask yourself is, why do I want to start my own business? What's the reasons, or what's the motivation? Are you trying to, I suppose, maybe grow your income, trying to earn a bit more money, or are you trying to free up a few more hours to spend with your family, or are you just, sick of being bossed around by somebody else? Or look, do you work on your own in the company you're with, and are you happy working on your own and think you can just go at it at your own pace? So they're the things you have to think about, I suppose, in terms of goals and objectives when you start thinking about it,
Yeah, and it's just that understanding, isn't it? It's learning what motivates you and what's going to act as the drive on which is going to help you build your business in a sense. And once you know what that drive is and you've set those achievements for yourselves, then it becomes very clear to you that you can concentrate more then on the practical end of things, and then eventually if you start to hone in on the practical end of it, you'll eventually reach those goals.
Yeah, exactly. And look, it will move from a thought process to actually implementing the changeover, if you want to call it that. So look, your next step is maybe looking into how you're going to register your business, make it official. So that's the next thing you need to think and need to cross off in the process. So yeah, and I suppose one of the main things is picking a name, trying to pick a catchy name. I found when I was picking my company, I was going to call it Delahan Electrical, but I didn't want to bottleneck myself into being my thought process was was I going to be a family run business type of thing, or did I go outside the box and think of innovative name. So I picked Energize Electrical. Just that was my thought process. I thought it might have got me a bit more scope to get larger projects. So look, it's worked so far. So I was happy with that decision.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely a catchy name, and I remember when you first put it up there. I think you had the Facebook page originally, and I seen it coming up. I thought it was a brilliant name, and I guess for the people who don't see how the inception of a business starts, obviously there has to be some sort of plan to it. Like, so did yourself and Jen, your wife, did you sit down and make a business plan out before you got up and running?
Yeah, so look, anyone that knows me will know I haven't got a business brain. I had to learn it quite quickly, but Jen would be the business side of, I suppose, my company. So, look, you have to spend a bit of time thinking these procedures out or your electrical business plan out, but it's time well spent. And like, you literally have to sit down with a pen and paper and try and, make a business plan for yourself. So I suppose the first thing is your financial projection. So what you think you're going to do in terms of the financial side of it, because look, at the end of the day, that's the most important side of it. And then, like, in terms of, like, you're employing yourself for the start, like your growth opportunities, like, are you going to take on, is your plan to take on a few lads? So that will determine what kind of jobs you pick. I suppose how you're going to market your business, where you're going to get the money from, and then I suppose creating a long to medium term plan or goals that you're looking to accomplish.
Yeah, and I guess it's all well and good, being able to write down the plan, but it's understanding the plan, isn't it? It's being able to get all that information down and being able to understand it so that when you hit a point during the process that you might feel you've gone off track slightly, that you know how to bring it back on track and be able to, like you said, reach those goals. Maybe not in the way that you've originally planned it, but, being able to pivot then and be able to get you to the same end goal by doing something slightly different.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you said, the plans are good and well, but, you could be faced with an opportunity that you can't say no. You know what I mean? It could be a revolutionary, idea, or, a company that you just literally can't say no to. Then the plans go out the window. You have to revisit it. But look, from the outset, if you have some kind of a structure to what you're planning to do or where you want to be, it's only helpful.
Yeah, and does it make any difference about who you're hiring? Like the type of training that even not just yourself but your employees have. Like, obviously, if you're going into a certain sector and you're doing something maybe along the lines of EVs or solar, that that you're hiring the right individuals for your business.
100%. Like, I suppose that's where the training and qualifications come in. So obviously, if you're going to EV and solar, you want to have a qualified electrician, whether he's trained in those areas or not. He does need to be qualified to do those courses. So that's definitely something you need to think about. You can't take on apprentices and then take on a load of EV and solar installations, because, you're the only qualified guy there. So you're the only one that can, officially do them jobs and sign off on them. So you don't want to bombard yourself with those types of jobs when you don't have the manpower to do it. And then obviously, in terms of, employing people, it's very important that you do, as we spoke with Henry there last week, you do have to do your due diligence on those people and vet them. Because I learned that the hard way with a couple of past employees. So, like, look, if you're busy, don't just take on people just for the sake of it. You really need to have a structure and who you're taking into your business and what qualifications they hold.
Yeah, and obviously in regards to the financial end of it, you could have people who, on the practical end of things, all day, every week, they'll get a job for you done, no problem. But it's when they get the money starting to roll in, it's being able to manage the financial end of it. So for somebody who might not have any expertise, or they might not have somebody in the household who's able to take that side of the business on for them, what type of steps do you think they could take in order to get the financials looked after?
Well, first of all, when you're starting a business, you can't start a business without having a bit of capital. So whether it be funding your own venture, or finding cash from a third party, because you'll have to remember, to start a company, you're going to need the basics. You're going to need, you're going to need stock. You're going to need tools. 9 times out of 10, you're going to need, a company van if you haven't got one already. And look, these all have to be catered for before you can even think about the long term. These are, as we were saying, the short term goals. So whether it be you loaning, like, look, you can have your own capital there, and you can loan your own company some money and then pay yourself back when the company's doing well. So these are, options that, like, obviously if you're in a position to do that, it's brilliant. But sometimes you will need to go and get, a company loan, or look at see if there's any government initiatives to start up the company. But always remember, the loans have to be paid back. So I would say keep a watchful eye on, the borrowing, and even in terms of credit cards and, business accounts or trade accounts you have with wholesalers and stuff like that. You do need to keep a close eye on it, because if you don't, it's very easy to let it slip.
Yeah, and talking about paying back loans, I guess it gets into some of the dirty talk now, which is the taxes and the accounting end of it. And I guess, as the business is starting to do well, and you're starting to get, jobs completed and money coming in, you might think it's great, like, you're in the green, but there's that point of the year where you have to start paying back the government. And just wondering, if you don't have any experience in, paying taxes for yourself, obviously if you're an employee like myself, you get the company that you work for to look after all that stuff for you. So what type of avenues can you go down to learn a bit more about the taxes end of things?
Yeah, look, it's an important thing to think about when you're going out on your own. The taxes and things that need to be paid out. It's not like in the old, when you're working for someone and you're going out to do a nixer and, all that money's in your back pocket. It's not like that when you go out on your own. There's no such thing as a nixer anymore. So everything has to be ran through the book. So look, in terms of my own situation, we do a lot of subcontracting work to, like, larger contracting firms. So look, we would be subject to RCT, so it's relevant contractors tax, and to my knowledge, there's 3 rates of that. So subcontractors like that have an up-to-date tax compliant record would be on 0%. So basically, stop nothing from the the invoice, and then substantially up to tax compliance, as in you're fairly good with your returns, you will be on a 20% rate. So basically, when you put your invoice in to your the primary contractor, you're going to be stopped 20% at source. And then you've got the third one there, so a per tax compliance record. So someone that's not doing the returns on time, or not doing it at all, will be stopped 35%. So basically, it's if you're behaving yourself, you'll bring the percentage down, and you'll be on 0 then. So then basically what you have then is, obviously tax has to be paid, but you have a bit of money to play around with. You might be able to buy a few tools and things like that. But it's definitely a hindrance if you're not being compliant. So you are going to be restricted by the higher percentage brackets. So it's something to think about when you're thinking about going, self-employed and subcontracting, or just doing private work.
Yeah, great that. And I'd like to maybe just step away from the tax end of things. At the minute, it sort of gives me a headache when I talk about tax for too long, Keith. And,
same here. Leave that to Jen.
Yeah, and look, I guess like insurance is another big thing, isn't it? Like I guess like, you know, insuring your company, but you're also having to get insurance for vehicles and stuff like that. And how important is insurance when it comes to going out on your own?
It's very important, and it's something you really need to think about. Like you said, you have insurance for your vehicles, insurance for your employees, and, you know, depending on what you're doing, so what your day-to-day tasks are. So for ourselves, obviously, we're doing a bit of solar, so we're working at heights, so the insurance goes up, you know what I mean? And it'll also depend on how many workers you have within the company, so that will drive the price up as well. And then obviously you have to think of insurance for your customers and, you know, the public, so your public liability and stuff like that as well. So anyone looking to go out on their own really need to emphasise the importance of getting the insurance in check as well. And, you know, not to be bypassing it. It is a cost, and it is a very substantial cost of running a business. So, yeah.
And I guess the way things are going now and the increase van thefts that are being seen across the UK and Ireland, it wouldn't be a bad shout as well for, you know, some stock takes or audits for companies to be done on employees' vans in regards to tools, just to know what they actually have in the business, so that in case, touch wood, that was ever to happen to yourself or anybody else out there, that they know exactly what their tools are worth.
Yeah, look, and it does fall under, I suppose, your own insurance yourself. So, you know, the likes of getting slam locks on the vans, routine stock takes, even to the point of maybe fitting air tags in, you know, I suppose more important or more expensive tools that you have in the van so they can be tracked. And yeah, and in terms of going in wholesalers as well, having, you know, a PO system where you're quoting a PO number for gear and stuff like that, because, you know, you could be over ordering gear and then stuff gets left behind. You really do need to keep a track of that stuff, because if you do let it slip, it's, you know what I mean, it's only costing the company money that doesn't need to be spent. So, yeah, and I guess we talk about social media and different forms of promoting individuals in regards to influencers on this podcast a lot, but how important do you think it is for marketing your own business when it comes to the likes of social media? I think it's fairly important. It does go back to, I suppose, your business plan that we spoke about before, and I suppose it does touch on, you know, your own personal goals as well. So, like, for anyone that has steady work and are happy with the steady work and have contracts and they're happy at that, obviously there's not as much need to market themselves. But for anyone that's, you know, ambitious and wants to go all the way with it, it's very important to get the marketing and be out there on social media. Like, as I've always said to you, my social media platform is not to get myself. Look, if it gets me, you know, more work, well and good, we'll tackle that at that stage. But it's literally just a portfolio for my work, so I'm able to show it to, you know, customers, you know, that I have through the subcontracting contracts that I have. So, but for anyone starting out, I think it's imperative that they put themselves out there and, you know, let it be known that they're there and they're trading. And we did mention in one of our previous podcasts, if anyone's looking for you to do work, especially when you're just out on your own, don't tell them you're too busy. You know what I mean? Tell them that you'll fit them in. You'll try your best to get to them. Just don't cut off any avenues, I suppose. I do think it's a good idea to have branded work here, because it looks professional. You know, anyone sees you out and about, your business is out there. So I think, in terms of branding and marketing, I think that even if you're not going to go all the way with paying for marketing and stuff, that's the least you should do is have branded workwear, just for the aesthetic of it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's great. And I follow a lot of electrical pages through Facebook and Instagram, and there's a few chats that to be had, and even apprentices coming on and talking about if they were to go self-employed when they qualified, how could they go about pricing for jobs, or how do you charge for your labour against your time and stuff like that. Is there any tips or tricks you'd have in regards to that?
Look, we're as I said, we're subcontracted out. We're on a priced plan with most of our customers, but from time to time we do private work as well. So we've worked very hard to get our price right. So like if we're doing a socket, we know, the average run of the cabling. We know the price of the conduit, the price of the clips, price of the screws, price of the back box, and price of the socket face, and the time obviously it is to do it. So we've generated a price per socket. And look, you take the good with the bad. You'll get a socket that's 3 meters away from the last one, and then you'll get one that's 10 meters away. So it is literally an average of all the sockets that you're going to do. But it's very easy, and it saves on admin time. So you've got your price per socket, and then obviously a different pricing for if it's a chrome socket, or if the customer wants to go for a premium brand like Heritage Brass or any of the top end Hager stuff. It's a different price. But look, if I'm going out to do a job and it's fault finding, I'll have a set price per hour as well. So it's kind of, you kind of have to be flexible with it. If you're going to be doing a lot of volume of the same thing, you kind of need to have the price in per point, in my opinion. And then obviously price well if you're going to be doing fault finding, especially if it's for something that you can do and no one else can do. You need to reward yourself for knowing how to do that job when someone else might not be able to. So
yeah, I think it's just all about not leaving yourself short, isn't it?
100%.
And I guess, how important is it when it comes to knowing your strengths and weaknesses as a business? I guess, you have to be able to realise that you might not know everything, and it could be important to, take the opportunity as well to learn from others within the industry.
Yeah, well, look, in terms of, your strengths and weaknesses, like I know the areas that I'm strong in, and look, I would actively try to recruit in other areas where I might not be as strong, and in turn that will, broaden the jobs that we can do or that we can offer to the customers. Like, for instance, if someone asked me to do a full industrial job, I'd probably struggle. But I've employed within the company for someone that will be able to do that job and do it to a good standard. So it's definitely important to know your strengths and weaknesses. And look, we've talked about it earlier on. I know my strength would not be in the business side of it. So thankfully, we've come to a stage where I was able to fully employ my wife, so she looks after that side of it. But just in the same instance, she wouldn't be able to go out on the tools and fit a few sockets. You know what I mean? So, yeah, look, strengths and weaknesses it plays a big part in it, and definitely in the recruitment side of it. So, thoroughly vet your CVs and check up on references, and make sure that if someone says they can do something, make sure they can do it.
Yeah, and I know, we've learned a lot from talking to people on this podcast over the last 3 seasons, and I know there's a lot to be learned from yourself as well, Keith, and your business, Energize Electrical Contractors Limited. And for anybody that is looking to, learn a bit more in regards to going out on your own and setting up your own business, I'm pretty sure you would 100% help them out if they needed any advice from you. And they can find you on Instagram, find you on Facebook. You can find them at Energize Electrical Services on Instagram. So hit Keith up if you need any advice, and I'm pretty sure you'll be happy to help them.
Yeah, 100%. And look, don't like talking figures, but like if we can do that privately, I'm happy to, you know, go have a chat with. I've had a couple of mates there that we've ran through price lists with each other together, because it's you know, the industry is becoming dog eat dog. You like, where people are coming into jobs and undercutting you, and in some instances you're going out and pricing the job, and you know, the customer might go and get another price, but they're just taking your list and just, you know, cutting it by, you know, a couple of €100,000 just to get the job, not knowing even what they're doing. So look, yeah, if we could all become more in line with the next fella, it'd be a much better, you know, it'd be a much better and easier playing field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, brilliant. And I enjoyed that. Hopefully somebody can take a bit of information from this, and hopefully it will help them make strides in setting up their own business. So thanks for sharing, Keith.
And look, I'll leave you with one thing. If anyone is going out on their own and they're, you know, procrastinating on whether to go with a job management software, I'd say take the plunge straight away. I'm sorry I didn't get it a couple of months earlier. So, and it's something that our company wouldn't be able to function without. So I'll leave you with that one.
Brilliant. I'll catch you on the next overload, Keith.
Thanks, Stephen. Talk to you.
Right, that's just about it for episode 2 of season 3. I'd like to say a massive thank you to the guests that we had on this episode, Chatreen O'Connor and Liam Roche, and a big shout out to Mighty Facilities Management for allowing us to record out of their headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. And a big shout out to our sponsors, Robust Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company. If you liked what you heard, come back next time for more overload chat with myself and Keith. Head over to wherever you get your podcast, give us a like and a subscribe to be notified when the next episode drops. Take it easy, everyone.
Talk to you later.